Hello everyone, welcome to the latest generation of the Ford F-150. Now, if you're a little bit skeptical, such as myself, when we first saw the images of this truck, it was hard to see the newness of this vehicle. It is based on the same frame as the previous generation, but Ford claims that 90% of the components in this truck are brand new. And in the case of the vehicle I'm testing out today, I have the Lariat trim with the PowerBoost powertrain option. It's a $5,000 upgrade in this Lariat trim, and it comes with the 3.5 litre twin turbocharged V6 that we're fairly used to at this point, and a 35 kilowatt motor in between the engine and the transmission, and a 1.5 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. Now, in the case of this particular vehicle, Ford has given me a lot to talk about in the F-150. This one is loaded to the max with almost all of those unique selling features that really makes this new F-150 interesting. And for me personally, I am quite a fan of hybrids, so being able to test out this truck and seeing what a hybrid truck is like has been a very interesting experience for me, which I'm going to spend a fair amount of time talking about in this review. Now, we've got a lot to discuss in this video, but the essential questions I want to ask is, how does the hybrid system stack up? How well does it work? Are all of the unique features of the F-150 worth your while? And does this truck feel new? Does it feel worthwhile to get out of your 2019-2020 model and go into the new 2021 versions of this F-150? And of course, find out if this truck is still a segment leader. So let's hop inside and go for a drive. Okay, so I'll get on my soapbox for just a minute to talk about why I personally love hybrids in day-to-day driving, your regular commute. Essentially, if you drive a hybrid and you want to maximize the efficiency, use more electricity than you do gasoline, then you can turn each drive into a bit of a game for yourself. So for example, I'm coasting and hitting the brakes way sooner than what I would do in a gasoline car because there's a little bit of an incentive for me to use up that electrical capability of this hybrid powertrain. Now, there's a few caveats to this, and some of the things that I've noticed whilst driving this F-150 is it definitely isn't as smart or as aggressive when it comes to use of the electrical system as a Toyota or a Honda. And to be fair, this is a truck. This is the first implementation of a hybrid from Ford in one of their biggest, heaviest vehicles. So I'm not going to really criticize them on that, but there are a few things here that I hope will show up when the next generation of this vehicle comes along, or there's an update with another product. So let's get into it. First of all, there is no EV mode button. There's no way to fix in EV driving if you are in the situation of going up and down a parking lot or a really slow driving zone. That's something I would like to see. It does seem like more often than not, the engine needs a little bit of a suggestion to turn off. So if you're getting off of the highway and you've got that long on-ramp, the way I've been driving this vehicle is just lightly tapping on the brakes as I get in the safe enough zone, because that suggestion will tell the engine it should shut off and that it could go into hybrid electric mode. And in every situation where I haven't applied a little bit of braking, the engine just keeps idling in the background. So it's obvious to me that Ford hasn't been as fuel efficiency minded as I think they could have been with this hybrid, but I wonder if that was purposeful. I wonder if it would be too big of a step for truck owners, traditional truck owners, to have this be their first hybrid and it be that kind of aggressiveness and always sorting for that final little bit of electricity to be used that you could find in a Toyota or a Honda hybrid. A couple other small notes I'll make about the hybrid driving, then I'll talk about regular driving because it's already been a significant part of this video already. This vehicle isn't totally silent. It has those external speakers that all hybrid electric or pure electric cars have to have when driving at low speeds, because they need some audible noise for pedestrians to have a little more awareness. But that external speaker system is so loud that even in pure electric drive, going in a parking lot, you will hear that more than anything. So a pure silent drive in the Ford F-150 PowerBoost isn't all that likely to happen. And over my week of driving this F-150, at this point of making the video, I have about 550 kilometers on the clock. 91 of those have been electric drive, so a fairly substantial amount. But the fuel economy is nowhere near the rating that Ford has attached to this PowerBoost system. As you'd expect out of any hybrid, the F-150 PowerBoost does have regenerative brakes, but they're never really part of the driving experience. Just coasting along now, it's not decelerating at any more aggressive of a rate than what a normal truck would do. Coasting to a stop, you can sense there is a little bit different of a driving experience when using the brake pedal, because right now I'm coming to a complete stop, the engine is off, and by the time I let off of the brake, it will have quite an aggressive lurch forward. If there's anything that I could request Ford improve with this vehicle, it would be that braking feel. That just 1, 2, 3 kilometers an hour seem to happen a bit too quickly, and oftentimes to get off of the line smoothly is a challenge. You'll likely always engage the engine to properly get off a line. You might use that first couple feet of rollout with electricity, but after that, not really. Again, this might be a conscious choice by the Ford engineers to make this PowerBoost seem like a normal truck. I don't know how many truck owners there are out there that are willing to move into a hybrid for the first time and want it to feel like a Prius. This is a very good progression of having this hybrid capability, but doesn't really push the boundaries, except for the fact that this is the first time that Ford has put this kind of a system in one of their trucks. To sum up my thoughts on the PowerBoost, it would be the first engine or powertrain choice I would go for if I was personally buying an F-150, because, as I've said at the beginning, driving hybrids is more interesting day to day. It makes my regular day-to-day commute more enjoyable. But for other aspects of driving, this F-150 is tremendous. If you didn't have the hybrid powertrain to talk about, you would have so many other great things to say about driving this vehicle day to day. With 430 horsepower and 570 pound-feet of torque from the PowerBoost output, it has an incredible amount of power ready to go. And with the 10-speed automatic transmission, in my time driving it, it has been fairly seamless. There's been a couple of hiccups here and there, especially when the transmission is cold, but nowhere near as bad as what it was when I recently tested out the Ford Explorer, which I was fairly convinced that car wasn't put together properly. Whether you're in pure electric mode or going down the highway at 110, just like the vehicle that came before it, this F-150 is surprisingly quiet and refined on a long highway drive. Steering is weighted nicely, the vehicle feels quite maneuverable, and you certainly have that low speed jostling as you'd expect from a truck with a solid beam rear axle. But when you're going at a decent pace on the highway, it's remarkably smooth. And here's something that I really appreciate Ford has done with this new F-150. So you have normal cruise control, adaptive cruise control, and intelligent cruise control. Intelligent cruise control is going to take the speed limit of what it sees on the road and immediately apply it to your given speed. Now, this sounds like a good idea if you're in a brand new part of the world, you don't know what the speed limit is, but for the situation of going through but in the situation of going through a construction zone, something like that, there's all these different signs going up and the system doesn't know better than you. And I love that it's just one button press away in the systems menu to go from normal, adaptive, and intelligent. Fantastic, Ford. Amen to you. I hope every other manufacturer follows this principle. Now, the driving experience is one element of the F-150 that had to be discussed, but the other big point of discussion is the interior and all of the features that have come along with it. So I'm going to park up now so I can label and describe and go into depth of all of the new features, or if you're a little bit cynical, the gimmicks of the new F-150. As I mentioned at the top, 90% of the components in this F-150 are new compared to the previous model year. And if you were like me, you saw the pictures of this when it first was debuted. Even if you had side-by-side images, between 2020 and 2021 model years of this truck, it really didn't seem all that different. But immediately you get behind the wheel of this vehicle and you appreciate just really all the components that you are interacting with are new. And that doesn't even include the elements in this F-150 that Ford is really trying to sell to you to make it seem even newer. Some of those are gimmicks, in my opinion. Some of them are really great features. So first things I want to point out are the screens. This 12-point-inch screen in the center has to be one of the crispest, most beautiful and high-resolution screens that I have come across in any vehicle ever. Personally, though, I wouldn't go for the 12-inch screen because you've got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and a few good sub-menus, but it doesn't feel like the larger size brings anything new to the table. But the digital instrument cluster is fantastic. Same as what I've just said, one of the best looking, crispest and high-res screens I've ever seen in any vehicle ever. You get a lot of really cool animations when you change around the driving modes in this F-150, but I'm surprised to say that there isn't as much customization in here than I was expecting. You can't change around much information that's displayed in between those two dials. I was originally a little let down by that. I would hope for a little more customization, but given just how well it works, I can let it slide. And perhaps the last big thing to talk about in terms of gimmicks is the work surface package. It's a $200 option that essentially allows you to do this. You have the gear shifter that folds away nice and flat so that you can have this work surface, and I have to admit it does work well. It's got a little bit of a grippy texture, so if you put down your computer to type, it's not going to slip away. And I ate my lunch, I wrote a couple articles on this, so it does work. It serves its purpose. But where I've seen a lot of people have worries about this system is all to do with the shifter. And honestly, when you're in park, as you're in right now, look how much that shifts about in place. That's annoying. It is very rigid when you're going from reverse to drive and all that, but just in this position here, this bothers me. And I can't help but think, couldn't this feature just exist without the additional upcharge in price and have more confidence in reliability if Ford just used a column-mounted shifter or they used a rotary wheel like you'd find in a Ram? This, to me, just adds too much complication. A couple small things I also want to note. You've got a power tailgate that can raise and lower by the key fob or in the cabin. If you lift up the tailgate a little bit and you just can't close it, let's say you've got some other weight in your hand, then the system will finish the job for you and close up. Do keep in mind though that this is a very similar system to an automatic tailgate where sometimes it might fight you if you want to close up properly, and that's something I was experiencing. It was a little bit of a pain, but just come to accept it with all of these systems really. Something that I really think can't be branded as a gimmick though is the new ProPower onboard feature of the new generation of F-150s, turning this truck into a mobile generator. Now there's 3 different power outputs for this system. You have a 2 kilowatt, a 2.4 kilowatt, and a 7.2 kilowatt. And Ford does you the favor of actually showing you what you could use for each different power output. As standard with the hybrid, you have that middle power range, and this one is optioned up to the 7.2 kilowatt system. The interior in general though is honestly fantastic. It doesn't have quite the material quality of all the new Ram 1500s, but I haven't ever been in an F-150 that has this good of build quality and with all of the elements really fitting together so well. You've got plenty of storage in the center console. Down here you can happily hide away your phone, and there's some big cutouts along the transmission tunnel. Opening this up is huge. You could maybe store 2 or 3 big gallons of milk in here, and there's also a little bit of open storage space above the glove box right there. That's always handy. The door cards are multi-tiered. There's a little bit of storage up here, and of course, being the Super Crew in the back seat, it has as much space as something like a Mercedes S-Class. It's incredible. If you live in a really tall family or have a really tall friend group, the F-150 Super Crew is basically luxury at its best. Few other things to note: I found these seats incredibly comfortable over long distances. I really like the steering wheel, and even though there seems like quite a few buttons on the steering wheel, it isn't like the new Ford Escape where they're all quite tiny and you have to really be careful which one you click. These ones are big and chunky enough that you can select any of them with your thumb. This vehicle that I'm testing out has the B&O Unleash sound system with the speakers in the headrest, and this is by far the best B&O system I've ever heard in any Ford product. Most of them are kind of middling, they're okay, not great, but this really, really stands out. So with an interior that, in my opinion, is built incredibly well, and in this example has all of the features, it does make more sense to step up to the 2021 version of the F-150 if you're looking for a brand new truck. But if you don't particularly care for the screens, this work surface, the sound system, all of the upgrades that come along with the F-150 in this generation, then I think you will be just as happy in this as you will be a 2020 version or any of that generation of F-150. Those interiors are built well, they feel solid, but I have to admit that being in here, it really does feel like a new product, and I think how well it's all integrated is really going to get some people attracted to this new generation of vehicle. So let's step outside and I'll finish up my review of the F-150. So how do I wrap up my thoughts with the new F-150? If you're in the position that you need an F-150 and maybe you don't have the budget to justify for a 2021 model, or there just aren't enough at your local dealership, then I don't think you're going to be stepping down in any way to go for the 2020 or around the model year of this truck. If you want the hybrid, if you want any of the features inside, then the F-150 certainly feels new, and it certainly feels worthwhile that new generational claim. If you get into this F-150, it will feel new and it will feel like Ford has progressed this truck further to be more capable, more refined, and in the case of this PowerBoost model, more efficient. So thank you very much for taking the time to watching this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all of those other wonderful things. Really helps this channel out a lot. Really appreciate you watching. Hope to see you again soon.